Welcome, everyone, to the fourth episode of the Unbanned podcast, and we have one thing to say this week. Unbanned Murderous Rider? Actually, we're not unbanning anything this week, because we forgot to ban Murderous Rider at the end of the last episode, so I guess it's still legal? Unbanned? Someone save me.
It stays unbanned because you're going to see it so much over the next 6 months that you're going to wish that we had banned it.
Well, in any case, welcome everyone. I'm Jake, and we have our regular crew here this week. Justin. And Jordan.
I am Jordan.
He will always be Jordan. And we're going to talk about Throne of Eldraine this week. This is our full spoiler episode. We got top 10s of all of our favorite cards coming up. I don't think we have any news this week, so we're just going to kind of skip past that, and we'll just get right into spoilers.
Eldraine ate all the news.
But before we get there, I got a bone to pick with Wizards, okay? About this set. Complaints all over the internet. People are complaining about how powerful it is. You know, collector's editions not being enough supply of them. There's not enough to buy. But I have a bigger problem. Wizards of the Coast, you guys did a whole set based on fairy tales. There's gingerbread men. There's Goldilocks. There's a Little Mermaid reference. Where is my Big Bad Wolf card? Where is it? That's all I want from the set. I want one legendary Big Bad Wolf card so that I could put him as my commander on my Werewolf commander deck, and it doesn't exist.
Morrow, you need to speak up. We need to figure out this.
I expect
right now.
A written apology tomorrow. Actually, today. Do it today.
Or I want him added immediately. Emergency reprint of the set. All of it gets thrown out.
Yeah, let's just do a new Brawl deck that's based around it. I want him to be Jund, but we already have a Jund Brawl commander, whatever. So we'll do just green-black, or green-red, or anything. Just something that I can play with my werewolves.
Just mess with him, Wizards. Make it like Simic colors.
Then I can't play Arlencord in my werewolf commander deck. I just cry.
You can play the new Arlen.
I don't want to distract too much, but are there black werewolves?
There's black wolves, I think.
Are you sure? I don't think he needs to be Jund. Just make him Gruul.
Don't make me Scryfall black werewolves or black wolves.
Don't listen to him, Wizards. Make it green-red. Werewolves are always green-red.
Let's just make it Azorius colors and we can all be happy.
Oh my god.
No one will be happy with that. Alright. So, let's start with our honorable mentions, if you guys have any. I have multiple. I'm just going to fire them off because I don't think we really have time to talk about all of them, but Emery, Lurker of the Loch, looks gross. The Great Henge is going to grind like crazy. Murderous Rider, of course, actually did not make my list, surprisingly not. Drown in the Loch, amazing card, looks crazy in Modern, but I was kind of trying to focus on Standard. And then the rare lands look gross. If you get them in your pre-release pools, hold on to them. Common lands also look gross for Pauper. I cannot see a format where they don't just play all of the common lands from the set in Pauper. Get your foils, get them now, hold on to them. You guys got any honorable mentions?
I've just got one random one that I like just because he looks funny. It's called Feasting Troll King. I just think it looks funny, and I might try and build around it in Standard for like 2 days and then give it up. But it just looks kind of funny in a Reanimator.
What does Feasting Troll King do? I don't think I saw that card.
2 and 4 green for 7/6 Vigilance Trample. When it enters, if you cast from your hand, create 3 food tokens. Then you can sack 3 food tokens or return it from the graveyard to the battlefield only during your turn.
Yeah, that does sound like a fun build around.
The card, I actually think the card is great. And Patreon shout out. We have a Patreon. I have a deck list up right now that you can view for any pledge amount. Doesn't matter how much you want to throw at us. And it has Feasting Troll King in it. Main board, I think the card's actually fantastic.
Ooh.
New Hogak.
Are we just going to make that joke like once per episode? Just New Hogak?
I mean, we are the Unbanned podcast. We gotta talk about the banned cards.
Unban Hogak. He was not that. He was that bad.
Hogak did nothing wrong.
Actually, ban him a second time.
They should restrict him along with being banned.
It's just next ban and restricted announcement comes out. It's just Hogak has been restricted in every format.
You know, I've been looking at it. Inquisitive Puppet looks like the new Hogak.
It's about as terrifying.
Yo, it's the spicy meme. It's everything used to be a Tron killer, now everything's a Hogak.
You heard it here, folks.
I'm gonna start posting this on Twitter immediately. Go follow me, by the way. Okay, so we're ready to move on to my honorable mention. It's way better than Hogak.
Yeah, but I just gotta shout out one more time. Patreon.com/unbannedcast.
All right, we're selling out too much. Stop.
I'm gonna do it like 6 more times.
Wait till we get merch.
No.
Ooh, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna be wearing it at GP. Is gonna be like, oh man, do you want this beautiful
No.
merch?
Okay, I know. Shush.
All right, what's your honorable mention?
This is an honorable mention based completely on the fact that I like the card. It's in my least favorite color, and it's probably going to be useless in most formats. And by most, I mean, I think all of them. It is Flutterfox. This card is 1 white, 1 generic for a 2/2 that says, as long as you control an artifact or enchantment, Flutterfox has flying. Say that 5 times fast. And I just love this card. I have one of each of all the foxes in Magic just because it's my favorite animal. I love foxes. I want to own one day. And this card is just awesome. The art's good. The flavor text is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it reads, "The white fox grinned. How about a bet, dragon? If I win, the skies are mine." After he stopped laughing, the dragon agreed. And Flutterfox has little wings on his feet, so he beat the dragon in the race. And I'm just like, that's so cool.
And shout out to Lucas Graciano with the amazing art.
Yeah, I love the art. It's really good. I kind of want to get it on a playmat.
Definitely becoming one of my favorite artists.
On the same vein of like honorable mentions for flavor and just liking the card, probably my favorite card in the set, just as like a Magic card that if I saw this when I was a little kid, I would love it. Blow Your House Down. It's 2 and a red for a sorcery. It just says up to 3 target creatures can't block this turn. Destroy any of them that are walls. I love when Magic cards have effects that just completely, perfectly describe what the card is doing. And this is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, that's some sweet flavor.
But of course, I am a spike, not a flavor nut. So let's get right into our top 10s with the most spiky person in the room. Justin, what jank are you happy about in this set?
Well, you know, you call me the most flavorful. My favorite flavor is spice. And we're going to start this off great. Even greater than that intro. So my number 10 card on this list is Happily Ever After. So it's, you know, I love myself some win cons, some alternate win cons. And I think this one is a fixed coalition victory.
What does this one do again?
So it's an enchantment for 2 and a white that says when it enters, each player gains 5 life and draws a card. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 5 colors among permanents you control, there are 6 or more card types among permanents you control and or cards in your graveyard, and your life total is greater or equal to your starting life total, you win the game. So just to break it down one more time, it's 5 colors among permanents you control, so you can play the guy from Ravnica Allegiance, the 1-drop hybrid Rakdos guy, and that's 2 colors for you right there, but it's 1 mana. You need 6 card types, so I'm not sure how many card types are usually, like, minus tribal, because we don't really count that. How many are there? Is there 6 or 7 card types?
Creature, enchantment, planeswalker, sorcery, instant, land. So, yeah, all 6.
So it's a little tough, and then greater life total, but you gain 5 when you play it. So I don't see it being extremely playable, but I like the card. I always like a convoluted plot.
I don't see it being extremely playable. This is probably the hardest win con since Hedron alignment to set up.
Wasn't there one? I think there was one in Ixalan that was harder, wasn't it? No. Never mind. That was actually playable.
Oh, Revel in Riches.
Oh yeah, Revel in Riches.
Yeah, that card
was
was
the
easy
last
to
one.
do. I actually won. I like 2-1 to Standard Showdown with that deck. That was really fun.
So, but the thing about cards like this is that when you pull it off, you're not just going to remember. Everyone who's there to witness it is going to remember you doing it.
Do I have to bring back the story where I hard cast a Providence, so I won with Triskaidekaphobia? Those were good days. That's a true story.
Triskaidekaphobia was one of the best win con cards. As for this one, I see it going in the Niv deck. If you want to play this, you should probably be playing it with Niv Mizzet. That's Niv Mizzet Reborn, by the way, not the other ones, the 5-color one.
The 5-color one might actually kind of enable this. I mean, it's jank, obviously, but that's what we're here for with Justin. Justin, the king of jank.
Let's say there's got to be a little chaos in every bit of Magic, and these two are too boring for fun jank like this.
I mean, I love to see it, and on occasion I will play it, but I'll never take it in a tournament because I can't handle that.
I'll have you know that I never lost to Triskaidekaphobia, ever. And that's because it's bad, and I would never lose to a bad card, ever.
He's lying.
I don't know if you're joking with me. I did win a game of Commander by knocking everybody down to 13 with Triskaidekaphobia. I knocked out every player with Triskaidekaphobia.
The joke, in case you missed it, like Jordan, was I did die a lot to Triskaidekaphobia because I started in Eldritch Moon and I was really bad at the game, and one of the better players was quite good at the game and always killed me with it. It was great. But killing an entire commander pod with it, that's impressive.
He cheated. He used a Strionic Resonator.
I did use Strionic Resonator and Obsidat. Those two are kind of good.
Alright, well, moving on from Happily Ever After, hopefully you can have a Happily Ever After with that card.
Onto a good card.
Onto, what's your number 10, Jordan?
Oh, my number 10? That would be Lucky Clover. If you haven't seen the card, it's 2 generic mana for an artifact that says, whenever you cast an adventure, instant, or sorcery spell, copy it, you may choose new targets for the copy. Okay, so this one is kind of going in line with Justin's list because it's not a spiky card. It's definitely more of a janky win con, but the potential is there because there's a lot of adventures I'd really love to double up. For instance, I really like doubling up a Brazen Borrower with this. It just seems like fun. Brazen Borrower's effect is return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So just massive tempo swing. Foulmire Knight is 3 mana instant. You draw a card and lose a life. So this would be draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, which for 3 mana is pretty great at instant speed.
Shout out to Read the Bones.
Yeah, exactly. To build your own read the Bones. And I'm expecting to see this a lot more in Draft. In Draft, you could conceivably pull this off. Not so much in Constructed. I mean, Murderous Rider gets better. The one I was looking at, though, that would be the most fun to try to brew this with and break would be Rosethorn Acolyte. Rosethorn Acolyte's adventure is called Seasonal Ritual. And it's a green for add 1 mana of any color. So if you play this, or multiple of these, it turns it into a ritual, which sounds like so much fun to me, because you could play it with Ral or Reverberate, and then this, and then you can ritual your way up to a bunch of mana and then cast something huge, which sounds like a lot of fun.
Now you're speaking my language.
It's kind of like Magical Christmas Land, like having multiple Lucky Clovers, but you can definitely do some stuff with it, and I could see you getting a lot of value off this card. Like, just the Murderous Rider double up that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's also Spin Swordmaster, which you gain X life and each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of knights you control. That also could work. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what abusable adventures come out of this.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I might have to experiment with it. There's like an adventure.
I just want to storm off.
Yeah, if there's like an adventure deck, this definitely goes in it. Moving on though, we have my top 10. My number 10 is Oko, Thief of Crowns. Yes, number 10. This set's broken. Like, really broken, if you ask me. Oko, we've already talked about him a little bit, but he's 1 green-blue for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. His +2, he makes a food token. The more we saw coming out of the spoiler season about food, the more it was kind of just like, this is a resource that is going to be very important moving forward into Standard. It can be used for all sorts of things, from fixing your mana to making things indestructible to drawing cards in some instances. Food is really helpful. It's really good right now. I think that it's going to just be a resource that a lot of decks have, and Oko's a great generator of it. +1, target artifact or creature loses all abilities, becomes a green elk creature with base to power and toughness 3/3. The best thing I've seen people doing with this is making like 1/1s bigger, but you can also just like make their Troll King we were talking about earlier a 3/3, and then it has no abilities. It's completely, it doesn't do anything. It's great.
Yeah, the Dreadhorde invasion deck with Oko seems really dirty.
Yeah, I locked him in as my number 10 before seeing a lot of the pre-release stuff, and he's probably better than number 10, having seen some of the decks he's in, but I want to stay true to what I had him at before seeing the decks coming out over the past couple days.
Yeah, Oko just seems like he's just the 3-mana enabler for the food, like, mid-range engine. It just seems like there's so many ways to use the abilities on him to grind out, and that's kind of what Standard is about right now, is just who can create a better engine to create value. And also his ult is relevant. The fact that you can use your food, which is basically useless, and swap it for like their best artifact or creature.
The issue with it is that, so the ultimate is -5, exchange control of target artifact or creature you control with a creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less. The only issue with it is that 3 or less, but there's a lot of good creatures at 3 power.
Well, there's also just some that are coming up in the set, like stealing your opponent's Gilded Goose, or because, Oko makes food that works with it as is, so
you can yoink your opponent's, I forget the name of the card, but the black-green card that you can sack food to it to draw. If your opponent has that down and you want it, you can use Oko to snatch it.
Yeah, Savvy Hunter's good.
You can also use the +1 to, of course, make their thing targetable by the ultimate, which doesn't seem that great. It seems like a lot of investment in the card to get what you basically already removed. But it's relevant. The -5 is probably the worst part of the card. The +2, though, the make a food, the +1, make something a 3/3, that's what this card's going to be doing most of the time, and that's amazing on turn 3. I think it's great.
Yeah, I feel like they made a mistake on that, and it should be a -1, not a +1, because that just seems like a really good effect for a plus ability.
Yeah, it's basically removal.
It seems like a lot of the planeswalkers in the set just don't really have net minus abilities. It's weird.
Also, people are complaining about Ren and 6 in Modern plussing up to 4. This guy pluses up to 5, at minimum.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. He's very hard to kill.
Yeah, it gives me Narset vibes, where you plus her up to 7 the turn she enters.
He's talking old Narset, by the way.
Oh, that's right, there's 2 Narsets. Yeah, Narset Transcendent from Dragons of Tarkir.
I mean, baby Narset having 5 loyalty also is nuts.
But with no pluses.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that even if you down tick her, she's still relatively safe makes that card insane still.
Justin, do you want to move on to your number 9?
Sure thing. So, I actually talked about this card last week because I still think it's good. It actually works pretty well with Oko, I'd say. It's what I called Dragon Lord Ojutai, but it's Shimmer Dragon. the 4 and 2 blue, 5/6 flyer. It's a creature dragon. And as long as you control 4 or more artifacts, it has hexproof, and you can tap 2 untapped artifacts to draw a card. So it's basically got Savvy Hunter as its second ability, but it's tapping instead of sacrificing. And you have a 5/6 hexproof that it doesn't need to be untapped to have it hexproof.
I think the really dumb thing about this card is the fact that it was printed at the same time as food.
Yeah.
Before this set, I was like, well, you can build some sort of an artifact-based control deck, and you can include these artifacts, and it would probably be pretty good, but some of those artifacts were really big duds. Now I'm looking at Shimmer Dragon, and I'm just thinking about incidental food you get from things like Gilded Goose and Oko, and this thing's gonna have hexproof a lot.
And then, I mean, it's not something I truly expect to happen, but you could also pair this with Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, and give it affinity, so it costs 2 mana.
That seems very powerful if you can pull it off.
Yeah, like I'm not like it's gonna be a jank combo if it happens, but I've been kind of thinking about making like a Sultai deck real quick, like maybe using it in the free event, the free play any card event in MTGA, and maybe making some kind of weird Sultai affinity deck with this card and Tezzeret and all those.
Yeah, that might be a little hard with the color combinations the way they are now. Or, sorry, that might be a little hard with the way mana is right now. Seems like 3-color decks might be on the way out, but could still be possible.
Yeah, luckily they printed Temple of Malady and Temple of Mystery, so I've got
That's true.
dual lands for pretty much the entire wedge. So, Jordan, what do you got for number 9?
My number 9 is Ginger Brute. If you have not seen this one, it is a 1-mana artifact creature. It is a 1/1 with haste. It has 2 abilities on it. 1 generic, Ginger Brute can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. And 2 mana, tap it, sacrifice Ginger Brute, you gain 3 life. Because it is also a food. It's a food golem, is the creature type. So, things I like about Ginger Brute. Mono Red really likes this card. Other aggressive decks like White Weenie also really love this card. It's just really good on rate. The fact that you play it turn 1 can start hitting in, and then after that, if you have mana to spare, you can just pay into it to keep pinging them and keep moving their life total down. And then if you're racing against another deck, it also gains you 3 life. So when it isn't relevant anymore, you pay 2, sack it, and then you are in a better position to race your opponent.
I didn't really give this card a lot of thought, but I did think it seemed quite good in the Mono Red Cavalcade deck that I've been kind of putting together on the side. I'm not sure if Mono Red really wants this, but I could see it being played.
Mono Red did just lose one of its 1-drops with haste. The Fanatical Firebrand from Ixalan rotated.
Yeah, and I agree with that. If you wanted to build the exact same Mono Red list that you had been playing pre-rotation, this kind of just slots in. Same with the Cavalcade list. You can just slot it into that. And it kind of seems like it is meant for the Cavalcade of Calamity deck. It's like this goes in there. But with some of the cards that are actually on my list later, I think that the Mono Red list is going to see a bit of a transformation. It's going to have a little bit of a bigger curve. And I don't think that you're going to want a 1/1 in it as much. But I could be 100% wrong.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see how the Mono Red builds shake out. There are a couple of cards in this set that make you want to go later and just build a deck that has a little more reach and less of an explosive start. But again, we'll have to see how it shakes out. I know one thing for sure, Mono Red is looking really good. And before I move on from this card, it's common?
It's an artifact, isn't it?
It's an artifact. It's pauper legal because it's common. And there's a lot of decks in pauper that just want like incidental artifacts. So yeah, that's also a thing.
Just to throw my 2 cents in, I completely agree with everything you're saying about the power of the card and everything. I just don't think I'll ever play it because it goes too far flavor-wise. It's just too far. Like, look at it. Tell me you can take that card seriously when it's hitting you. You'd be like, with me, somebody will be like, swing ginger brew. I'll be like, no, I refuse to believe in this card existing.
I don't think you understand. That's part of the power of the card. It's psychological warfare.
Exactly.
I don't know, man. We cracked a lot of Bomat Couriers back in the day, and that card is literally a robot that delivers packages. Like,
But you know what? Those kind of exist. They're called mailman van trucks. What are they? But Bomat Courier, it doesn't completely exist, but it exists more than a freaking gingerbread man running out of a house. But he looks like I don't know, I was going to say Frankenstein. He's just ugly. It's an ugly gingerbread man. And at least somebody picking up the mail, or even a robot picking up the mail, is more realistic. And it's not all about realism. It's just, it went too far.
well, if you don't like that because it's too ugly and nasty, Justin, let's get to my number 9, which is gorgeous and beautiful and golden.
Oh, is it me?
Oh, if only. No, we're talking about Gilded Goose. It's 1 green for a creature bird, 0/2. It has flying, which is quite relevant because of its extra toughness. When it enters the battlefield, you get to make yourself a food token. You can pay 1 and a green, tap it to make another food token, or you can tap it, sacrifice a food, and it makes 1 mana of any color. So this is like a variant on Birds of Paradise, except it's kind of, you have to have this other resource to make it a Birds of Paradise, but it does block better and dies to less. This card is like just a slot-in replacement for a lot of Land of War Elves decks. It's not quite as good, I don't think, in all of those decks, but it enables some other things like Birds of Paradise does, like splashing colors and fixing your mana, making sure you have what you need to cast your spells. And on top of that, it kind of is an engine in its own right to outpace aggro. You can just keep making food tokens, keep sacking them to gain life.
Gilded Goose is just, I don't think there's too much to say about the card. It's just a great mana dork. Feeds into your food engine. It's a good card.
Yeah, if anybody says that this isn't a good card, they should probably just stop talking about Magic. Because, yeah, I love this card, honestly.
I mean, if you just cover up everything on it except for the Birds of Paradise bit, it'd be good. And then it can fuel itself if you have enough extra mana laying around. That just puts it into great territory for me.
Okay, so Justin, what is your number 8?
So my number 8, I'm kind of cheating with my number 8, but only because it's already in standard right now. Because my number 8 is Sorceress Spyglass. I love myself a Pithing Needle.
It's an effect that should always be in standard, and apparently Wizards agrees. Because it is...
I mean, I don't have much to say about it, but it's just a card that needed to be reprinted. I prefer Pithing Needle, but I'll take Spyglass.
First off, it's Pithing Needle, and I mean, Sorcerer's Spyglass is a really good card. If you're not going to get to the point where you can play an Immortal Sun to stop Planeswalkers, Sorcerer's Spyglass is pretty good.
I need you to stop right there. It is Pithing Needle.
It's
I don't want to
Pithing
get in
Needle.
an argument. I don't want to get in an argument here, but go to Ristic Studies Pithing Needle video
It's
right now.
Pithing Needle.
You pause, you listener, you pause it right now. It's in the first 2 minutes of the video. Watch the first 2 minutes of the video, go back to our podcast, and then go back to the video at the end.
Or watch it after.
Well, I have great news for both of you, because you're both wrong. It's Sorcerer's Spyglass, and it's number 8 on your list. So, Jordan, if you're so smart, what is your number 8?
Well, my number 8 should probably be higher, because I think this card is going to make a new archetype based on what I've seen in the set and based on what I've been brewing with. I would like to thank Justin for bringing it to my attention last week. It's Iron Crag Pyromancer. If you haven't seen it, this card is 2 generic 1 red for a creature human wizard. It's a 0/4, and whenever you draw your second card each turn, it deals 3 damage to any target. This card is awesome. You get to, you just gotta cast an opt and you get a lightning bolt. I'm in. Like, that's amazing. And that's not even counting all the other draw spells that there are. There's the instant speed tormenting voice. There's radical idea. There's the royal scions, which we may see later on the list. I don't know, maybe. Crackling Drake. You play a Crackling Drake. You get to bolt something. Everything about this card is amazing. I love it.
I wanted to put this on my list, but I was thinking this is more of a standard list, and I don't think this card's going to be as good in standard as it will be in modern.
I don't know. I disagree. You could play this in modern for sure, and it could be very good, but I don't know what deck you played in is the only problem.
Well, I got good news for you. If you go on that same Patreon Discord page, you will have my deck for my blue-red Ironcrag list, which plays 4 of them in it. So you could check that out if you become a Patreon at any tier.
That's patreon.com/unbannedcast.
Okay, can we stop selling out now?
Never.
It was a good segue, okay?
Well done. But anyway, I've said my thing. I'm not sure what else there is to say about Pyromancer, except it is also good in mono red as well.
I think it honestly is a pretty good card. I don't think it works in mono red because you just don't have the space to draw. I don't really, I guess, risk factor you could draw. Experimental Frenzy doesn't count as drawing, so that doesn't really work. The card itself, though, does seem really attractive. I definitely think you need to build around it. You need to have it in mind as this is something you're doing, but it does kind of... It's not hard for you to actually morph an Izzet deck around this sort of strategy.
It's something that really pays you off for building around it.
Oh, definitely. An extra Lightning Bolt every turn is good, like, especially since it's just free. You actually don't pay any mana for this. Just add it on to your Opt, your Serum Visions.
Even if you Chemister's Insight on your opponent's turn.
Oh, that's the best part, isn't it? Like, if you play it, can play at instant speed. In theory, if you were playing this in Modern, you could Serum Visions on your turn, bolt something, Opt on their turn, bolt another thing.
Sadly, that's only 1 card with Opt. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
You need to draw 2 cards.
Yeah, you'd have to draw 2 cards. Good point.
But you could do the instant speed tormenting voice on their turn.
It's very true.
Well, seems like a very good card and a good number 8.
And what do you got at number 8, Jake?
So I didn't get my Big Bad Wolf this set, but I did get a Big Bad Wolf. And he's my number 8. It's Wicked Wolf. It's 2 green for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Just this ability on a 3/3 is really good in a green deck. I built a mono green list. It had Wicked Wolf originally, but this is my biggest problem with the card. 4 cost is hard to fit into a mono green list. There's so many great cards at 4 cost right now. And even the second ability, Sacrifice a Food, put a 1/1 counter on Wicked Wolf. It gains Indestructible until the end of turn, tap it. Doesn't really push it above what I've been playing in a lot of my mono green lists, which is Vivian, Arclight Ranger. That card just outclasses this at every step of the way, honestly. But I think there is a deck you can build that will play this card, and it won't be mono green. It will most likely be Sultai or green-black Food. This card slots right into that deck, and it does a lot of work there. Fighting things, being able to make it a 4/4 the turn it comes out, have it fight something, make it be indestructible. The fact that you don't have to pay for that food ability is probably the best part. It reminds me a lot of Bristling Hydra, and we all know how much that got played back in Kaladesh and Aether Revolt standards.
Yeah, we commented on this card a little bit last week, and it seems very good because a lot of the other green mid-rangey decks just incidentally play wolves, and like the blue-green flash deck plays the one wolf that buffs wolves, so there's synergy there, and also it's just a good creature, so it will find a home somewhere. I'm not sure where, though.
Talking about the flash decks, that is one of the issues I've run into with this card. Like I mentioned, it being 4 cost is rough. I would almost be happier with it as like a 2/2 for 3 that did all the same things, because the Wolf Lord that has Flash, Nightpack Ambusher, it is also 4 cost. So they clash really badly in that deck. I don't think you can actually play a Wolf Tribal deck with both of them. It just doesn't work. Your 4 drops are just too
stacked.
Yeah, too many 4 drops. You don't want too many 4 drops in your mid-range deck.
Just don't play anything above 5.
You replace all your 5+ drops with 4 drops.
You're right. I guess you could just play 4 drops. 4-drop tribal.
Imagine turn 8, you play 2 things.
Dang.
That being said, there's a lot of gross curves with this. Like, Oko into this is very powerful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just having that guaranteed food token the turn it comes out. You could even make it a 5/5. Technically, if you wanted to, you could Oko, make the food, then make the food again, and play the wolf.
Yeah, and then you get its trigger as a 5/5 indestructible. If you can get it in the same deck as the Vivian 4-drop, it gives this trample and more counters, so there's synergy there. You can proliferate onto it. There's a lot of things you can do with this card, and it just needs to find its best home.
I just want to say I also love the flavor of things eating the food to become stronger. Like this one uses food to become indestructible, so it's munching and just like healing through the damage.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you're throwing the food at the other creature, and it's trying to get the food, but it just accidentally eats the thing.
You like throw food at your opponent, and your wolf like eats it. Takes an arm with it.
Go fetch!
But yeah, I like it. It's a card that I'll probably slap in a deck, 1 or 2 of, in a deck at some point.
Justin, let's move on to your number 7. What you got?
My number 7, I've got the new Endless one, Stonecoil Serpent. It's an artifact creature snake. Its CMC is X, and it's a 0/0, but it enters the battlefield as X/1/1 counters, and it also has reach, trample, and protection from multicolored.
So I think this is the first time, but you have hit a card that is on my list. I have this card as my number 1.
Really?
Yeah.
So having an Endless one with extra plus side seems very good, except that it's slightly more susceptible to removal with the artifact clause on it. It's just so good. The trample is beyond relevant in that. And then pro multicolored, I don't know how relevant that's going to be in standard, but it just looks so good.
So yeah, this is my number 1. I didn't actually expect anyone else to have it on their list, so interesting that Justin was the one who grabbed it. This card looks just disgusting. If you, for some reason, are just generating extra mana, this gets huge really quickly. It's just a single X for the counters. You can proliferate onto it, like I mentioned with my last card. Reach, trample, protection from multicolored. Protection from multicolored is just obscenely good. We're going into Theros. We came from Ravnica. Multicolor is a thing in both of these, more or less.
Just off the top of my head, Beacon Bolt can't eat this.
Assassin's Trophy can't hit it.
Assassin's Trophy, Mortify. 90% of the ways we kill things in standard right now don't hit this, and everything else, like Lava Coil, you can easily outgrow it.
It's also relevant to say that there's a lot of multicolored creatures that just won't be able to block or trade with this.
Yeah, I think the best part is that it has protection from multicolored, not hexproof like we had in Dominaria. So a lot of creatures it can attack through them.
Yeah, I was going to put this on my list, but I figured you would get it, honestly, so because it's disgusting. So I saved the slot for something else, but I almost put it on there just because it is just a gross card. The cool thing as well is that the blue-green ramp decks aren't losing anything, and this is another payoff for them having all of the mana in the world, kind of similar to the Hydra that we have been playing in that deck.
Yeah, Hydroid Krasis goes along with this very well. If you're generating lots of mana, they just kind of go together. On top of that, in Modern and maybe even Legacy, there's a lot of decks that play things like Walking Ballista and Hangerback Walker already. this card kind of just slots into those. It plays really well with another card that is in Modern, but also got reprinted in Standard a while back, which is Steel Overseer. And I've seen a few builds already. I, of course, like I mentioned, made this list before seeing any of the new decks, before the streamer early release event. But I saw a lot of builds that were just like mono blue affinity, but in Standard, with this card as a centerpiece.
I am not looking forward to that.
Yeah, you made me realize the affinity with artifacts with Tezzeret gets even better with this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking to be a little more fair, this is a 4 of in my mono green mid-range list that I've been talking about. It fills every slot on the curve that you normally would have trouble filling, and it gives you reach that's important, gives you trample to get through any chump blockers. It's great.
Yeah, creature that's always on curve is something you want in every deck, honestly.
Every creature deck, is gonna at least look at this card. They may not end up playing it because it might not fit, but I mean, it's kind of hard to sneeze at it and say, no, I'm not gonna play this, when you look at it and you're just like, oh, this is good every turn of the game.
Enters, it blocks well with reach. When it attacks, it's got trample and protection. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
I probably should have put this higher in my list.
But we can't just spew compliments on Stone Cold Oil Slowprint all night. What do you have for your number 7, Jordan?
My number 7 is Brazen Borrower. We mentioned this card last week because I'm in love with it. It's 1 and 2 blue for a creature that's a 3/1. Fairy Rogue, Flash Flying. Brazen Borrower can only block creatures with flying. However, it also is an adventure. It has an instant attached to it that is return target non-land permanent and opponent controls to its owner's hand.
This card is my number 3. I'm very high on it.
Yeah, I'm also very high on it. It's not the highest on my list because there's other cards that I want to talk about a little bit more. And just so you know, my list isn't really in an order of power or which ones I really like the most. I kind of just put them on there. It sort of is in descending order, but not really.
My list is in order, power level. This is number 3 in the whole set. Promise. I have it 100% right. Don't listen to anyone else.
He's the spike.
It's currently at $16, by the way, for pre-order. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it just looks like a really nuts card. It brings up memories of Vendilion Click, but this one doesn't necessarily warp your opponent's hand. It just is a massive tempo swing. If you play this in the early game to slow them down, it's amazing. If you need to remove something late for a turn, it's really good there. You can play this for 5 because both sides have flash, or rather one's an instance and one has flash. So you can return a thing, play it, swing in the next turn if you need to pressure life totals. Like, it's just all of blue's versatility slapped onto one card.
I'm going to try to keep it a little brief because I could talk about cards like this forever. But everything he said is, of course, 100% true. I'm a little higher on it than you are, just because I think that end step petty theft into paying for the Brazen Borrower at instant speed is one of the more busted things that you can do in Standard right now. The fact that it's a non-land permanent, giving you that flexibility on top of the fact that it's flexible in which half you can cast, in whether you want to cast one or both. Just how versatile this card actually is, I think, is a little underrated, or at least I thought it was, and then I saw the $16 price tag just barely, and now I'm thinking maybe I should have pre-ordered some of these.
People love a good click.
Yeah, I'm a big Vendilion Click fan, and I'm happy with this variant. Probably be playing a lot of it in Standard.
Yeah, I'm going to be slamming it in mono blue. I'm going to be trying it in a blue-white build. I'm going to be playing it in blue-green. I'm going to be playing it in blue-black. There's nowhere I don't want to put this card if it's playing blue.
Any comments, Justin?
I don't have much to say about it, honestly. I've said pretty much everything I thought about it last week. You should probably listen to that one right after this, even though it might not make as much sense. Yeah, I don't think it's as good as people are saying, but I still think it's a good card.
I honestly don't know if I would throw $16 at it, but it's great. I love this card.
All right, so Jake, what is your number 7?
Oh man, you guys didn't steal this one from me like my 3 and 1, but number 7 for me is Bone Crusher Giant. So it is a creature with adventure. I'm going to start with the adventure. Its adventure is 1 and a red for an instant. Damage can't be prevented this turn, and it deals 2 damage to any target. That any target is a big part of why it's on the list. If it was just like deal 2 damage to a player or whatever, would not be on the list. The fact that it's versatile shock is fantastic. Its creature half is 2 and a red for a 4/3. It says whenever Bone Crusher Giant becomes a target of a spell, deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. So if you ever are in the situation where you have to like lightning strike this or kill it yourself, you take 2 damage. But in 90% of situations, this means your opponent takes a minimum of 4 off of this if you turn 2 adventure, turn 3 play it. And then it's a 4/3 body.
Yeah, a 4/3 body for 3 in red is just very good on rate. And then the fact that this is 2 cards and the other card is not only reasonable, but actually good in mono red builds is just really nice. It'd be nicer if it was Skullcrack on the front half, on the instant half, but I guess red can't be too busted.
I'm happy that it's not Skullcrack, because Skullcrack is just deal 3 damage to target player, if I remember right.
Oh yeah, this hits any target, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the reason why it's on the list. If it was 2 damage Skullcrack for the adventure, I wouldn't be into it. The fact that you can remove things with that, fantastic. Also, damage can't be prevented if you know how the ruling of protection works. That makes it so you can attack through a Cerulean Drake.
This is a perfect counter to Cerulean Drake or anything that they print in the next couple of sets that has protection from red.
It's a mono red piece. I like it though. I always like the cards that pass the vanilla test. The power and toughness is higher than its CMC.
On vanilla test, this is I don't know if I would be sad to be playing a 4/3 for 3 in my mono red list. That's like normally mono green stats right there, and we get it on this card.
We get it on a card attached to a shock.
Yeah, that should show you something about the actual power level of the set, I think.
Oh, we'll get into that more with my next couple of picks as far as mono red.
We didn't get into the power level before with Brazen Borrow and Stonecoil? Jeez. If you guys don't mind, I will actually just jump right in my number 6 pick, because it kind of goes along with my number 7. My number 6 is Fervent Champion. It's 1 red for a 1/1 first strike haste. Whenever a Fervent Champion attacks, another target attacking knight you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And equip abilities you activate that target Fervent Champion cost 3 less to activate. This is going to be the basis of some sort of red knight decks. This is going to be the basis of some sort of red knight deck, for sure. But just looking at it as a mono red aggro piece, this thing clowns on people. It's a first strike haste. It's the main reason why when Jordan mentioned Gingerbrew, I'm like, that's barely relevant, because it's a first striker 1/1 that you can make bigger pretty easily if you have any good equipment lying around.
Yeah, that's true. That card is just really good. And there's a couple of good equipments you could run with it, actually. The Elementalist's Mask, I think, is it?
It's Mask of Immolation.
Mask of Immolation. I can't remember the effect, actually.
Mask of Immolation, I can't remember the cost, but when it enters, you make a 1/1, and then it gives the creature it's attached to the ability to sacrifice and ping for 1.
It costs 1 and a red, and it comes attached to a creature. It comes attached to an elemental, I believe.
Yeah, the fact that you could equip this for cheaper, and then if you need to, you can sack and ping. I'm sure there's some way to abuse the equipment cost reduction, is what I'm saying.
I mean, we were talking about Ember Cleave last week, and that seems really good with this card.
Hey, you know what else would be really good with Ember Cleave? Stoneforge Mystic.
It's already unbanned. Stop talking about it.
It's going to be printed in standard.
It's getting reprinted in Zendikar Rising.
I would not be surprised, but we'll see. On top of that, this card goes in a deck I'm really excited about, which is the Mono Red Cavalcade deck, not just base Mono Red. And I am going to start looking into building a red-black Knights list. I built a red-black Aristocrat style list for the Patreon already, but Knights seems good, and I don't think we can do the full Marduk wedge, but red-black is definitely on the table right now, especially with Knight of the Ebon Legion.
Does seem very, very powerful. Okay, on to Justin's number 6. On to Justin's number 6. What you got?
So who I have for number 6 is probably the most noticeable art in the entire set, because it looks like a high schooler's Photoshop project he did. But I also love the art. It's Hushbringer. So it's 1 and a white for a 1/2 flying lifelink. It's a creature fairy, but it also has creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger. So it's like a torpor orb, but on dying as well.
I love this card. I'm really not that excited for it in Standard. I'm happy that we have a Floodgate for the Yarok decks, but I am so excited to play this card against humans in Modern. They already hate Torpor Orb, and now I can beat them in the face with my Torpor Orb.
I mean, you could do that with Karn as well.
Karn doesn't do anything against their deck.
I know.
No, but he goes and gets Torpor Orb.
I was saying it can animate Torpor Orb.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got it.
I missed
Okay.
it. Continue.
Okay. So, yeah, this card looks very, very good. It's a replacement for the other card that White Weenie played.
Tocatli Honor Guard.
Tocatli Honor Guard. There we go. Thanks, Jake. Yeah, it's a replacement for Tocatli Honor Guard, but it also hits those death triggers, which is really nice in a lot of situations, and maybe more relevant going forward, because it is... How exactly is it worded? It says, if an effect would trigger on death, does that hit sack triggers as well?
It says creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger.
I'm trying to think of relevant ones right now. Yarok obviously has a few that it doubles up.
This card turns off my Mayhem Devils and my beautiful Aristocrats deck.
Oh yeah, that's true. This actually might keep the Aristocrats deck down just because just being around, it kind of invalidates that entire deck.
Rankle says you have no chance.
Fair enough. I mean, you can always just remove it as a creature.
But yeah, I just like its versatility. I've strangely loved prison pieces. I love the cancels dying triggers in case that one person who's really hopeful to make Teysa Karlov work in Standard, now it's completely dead.
Sorry to that one jank player who was trying to make Teysa work.
The single guy playing Orzhov mid-range with Afterlife. Every single Afterlife, that really bad angel.
Ooh. This has a couple of relevant things it counters, I just realized. One of which is Cavalier of Thorns.
Ooh, all of the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Cavalier of Thorns is the big one, though, because that currently is a card that just stonewalls the game because it itself has such good stat lines that it blocks and attacks better than most other creatures. And in addition to that, it grinds so well. Like, I was playing today with Bant, and just grabbing a Hydroid Crisis and putting it on top of your deck is one of the most powerful things I think I've done, not just in Standard, but like in Magic. Like, in the format, doing that is so good.
But, there's one thing I wish was different, and that's the lifelink. I know it's a very tall stretch but bump it up to Mythic and give it Flash. Like, you want to.
Oh my...
No.
Blue-White Fairies is already looking pretty good. If this had Flash, I would be so excited.
Yeah, it's a fairy. Just, come on. Make it a Mythic. Give it Flash.
We already got our Mythic Fairy. It's Brazen Borrower.
That's bad, though.
Jordan, what is your number 6?
Well, this one will be simple, so that's good. It's Slaying Fire. Slaying Fire is 2 generic and a red, instant speed, deals 3 damage to any target. It has Adamant. If at least 3 red mana was spent to cast the spell, it deals 4 damage instead. We talked about this last week. It's busted. I don't think I really need to explain why this is busted. It's just, if you put this in a deck that makes red mana consistently, it's just 3 mana, deal 4 instant speed to any target, which is amazing. It's good in mono red. It's good in red, blue, and Jeskai control variants. Like, it's just awesome.
We talked about this card, so I'm going to be brief on it as well, but it looks great. Are we a bunch of degenerate red players?
I am.
Yeah.
You guys
We
are.
probably are.
I got Chandra on my playmat.
I mean, this card just puts itself in its own deck. It literally just says play mono red on me.
Yeah, exactly. It can be played in those other formats, but really this shines in mono red.
Templating, if you are playing mono red, this card is just better.
Yeah. I might skip to my next card and cover it really quickly because it goes with this one as well. Yeah, my number 5 is Torbran, Thane of Red Fell. It's 1 and 3 red for a 2/4 legendary creature. He's a dwarf noble. Awesome typing, by the way, a dwarf. And if a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. Mono red is getting so much love in this set, and it's fantastic. This is an amazing card. It's like if you resolve this and swing in, it deals 4, which is just on rate for it. And then if we were to combine it with Slaying Fire deals 6. That's insane. Like, mono red looks so good going into this set.
And if you're playing it in my red-black Knights deck, maybe just make all your Knights red, and then they all deal double damage. Well, most of them deal double damage, I should say.
Yeah, or you put this in the Cavalcade deck, and then Cavalcade's bolting them.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's gross.
Yeah, because it's a red source, and it's just like, that card is nuts. It's just amazing.
You see, this guy makes me want to play Leyline of Combustion more. I'm a big advocate that Leyline of Combustion is a decent card.
I mean, it's seen modern play.
Some, but Leyline of Combustion, though, isn't a creature. This can attack in, and its stat line is good. The 2/4 means it doesn't die to a bolt.
Yeah, they're printing 4 toughness on a lot of creatures, I feel like.
Kind of to go along with your number 5, my number 5 is Stormfist Crusader. It's black-red for a 2/2 menace. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card and loses 1 life. On top of that, it's a human knight. So, humans players in Modern, you guys got a new toy. But more importantly, my red-black knights deck got its... Like, this is its centerpiece. You're just happy about it. It turns on your spectacle triggers if you really want those. It makes you draw cards to keep beating people's faces in. And it's a night to play with your favorite champions. Play with Jordan's...
Torbran. Torbran's not a knight, though.
Torbran's not a knight?
No, he's a noble.
Torbran's not... Why? Wizards, you're killing me over here. I can't do Stormfist Crusader and Torbran. So sad.
You could. You definitely can. It's just Torbran won't get any benefit from being in the knight deck, but the knight deck, I think, gets a lot of benefit from him being in it.
You know what else is fun about it? Oh, no, never mind. I thought that the loses 1 life got increased, but it says loses instead of deals 1 damage.
Sad.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, I can't be completely busted. I just have to be really good. Stormfist Crusader. Great card. Kind of like an aggressive Bob. It's my number 5. Play it.
So we've kind of skipped me a little bit here, because I believe I'm actually only on number 6 right now. No, I'm not. I'm on number 5 as well.
Hey, it works out.
Sorry about that. So I guess we'll just jump into my number 5. I think it's a good card. It's Fabled Passage. There's nothing better than a budget fetch land that's actually decent.
You want to give it a quick read for him?
Yep, it's tap, sacrifice it, search your library for a base land card, put it on the battlefield tap, shuffle the deck, and if you control 4 or more lands, you untap that land. So it's just evolving wilds that later becomes better.
Which may help us with our mana being not so good, or not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, a lot of the decks I was building, was tooling around, definitely had mana problems, and putting in this card really helped that a lot. I expect to see it a lot. I expect to see it pretty much everywhere. I don't understand why you wouldn't play it in your deck, to be honest. It's just good.
And I'll be honest with you guys, you might want to pick it up now, because I think they're only pre-ordering it around $10. So you might want to pick it up before it booms in Standard.
Or worse, booms in Modern.
Yeah, you don't want these to be Prismatic Vista costed. I find it kind of funny. It's like an average fetch land right now is like $30, and you've got Prismatic Vista that's 20, and then you've got this that's 10. So I just find it funny.
It's your fetch land choices. It's depending on your budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
You're getting. It's like the old classifications for the products that Wizards did. It's like beginner, intermediate, expert.
Are you an expert player? Then you gotta spend $100 on your Scalding Tarns.
Yeah. I guess I'll just jump in right now with my number 4, and hopefully you guys like green, because 3 of the next 4 cards are green in my list.
I love green. Let's do it.
We got Once Upon a Time at 4. We talked about this last week. Just really good in a lot of decks, and I could see it in Standard, I could see it in Modern. It's just good.
See, Justin and I are just in perfect sync tonight, because my number 4 is also Once Upon a Time. I haven't tried just slamming this in every green deck I build yet, but I'm getting really close to that point. It just seems basically free. You draw it in your opening hand, you get to cantrip for an extra bit of material. It sculpts your hand into whatever you need it to be. You need a land, you get a land. You need a creature, you get a creature. We've talked about it. While we're talking about cards that are pre-ordering very highly, possibly because of modern play, this card is $15 for a rare cantrip.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, and I guarantee a lot of those purchases are from Tron players. You dirty, dirty Tron players.
You know who you are.
I'm just joking. We love you.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time seems extremely busted, and I really want to play the Amulet Titan. Also, I'm going to use this as a transition to go into my next card, which is also a green card. You might not have heard of it. It's also Once Upon a Time.
Did we all put Once Upon a Time at 4?
Yeah. I put it there
Perfect.
because I honestly think it should be number 1 based on playability and power level. However, I didn't want to put it at number 1 because I think that's boring, and I wanted to do a card I actually really think won't be banned in 6 months.
Oh, you could have done number Once Upon a Time.
Oh.
I don't know if it's going to be banned in 6 months, but I think it might cause a banning of a card, and I think it's
Urza's Tower.
It's going to see way more play than anyone thinks it will.
It's so good. It's just free selection. It's like you're starting the game with a Sylvan Scrying on the field. Like, that is what this card is. You get it's 1 card, get a free Sylvan Scrying at the beginning of the game.
Or get a creature.
It really is Ancient Stirrings like, and that's terrifying.
Except it's better because it costs 0.
Yeah, and it's like you can hit it later, and then it's like, oh no, it's a 2-drop, but it's good as a
Woe is
2-drop.
me.
Watch us all get caught with our feet right in our mouths when this card sees no play.
I mean, it would catch literally us and every other podcast and Magic outlet off guard. It would catch us with our pants down because everyone is saying this card is busted. It's not just us.
Whoa, are you going to tell me that a card got put into Modern and people are going to overplay it? People would never do that.
Definitely not.
Since we are all agreed on our number 4s, I'm just going to remind you, my number 3 was Brazen Borrower. We already talked about it. Justin, what's your number 3?
My 3 has also been talked about. It is Gilded Goose.
Fantastic card.
Because, yeah, Birds of Paradise.
I think this is where we're going to start to see some overlap because my number 3 is Oko.
You are higher on Oko than me, but... Oh yeah, yours is in order.
Mine is kind of in order. I actually purposely moved Oko further down because I started to think about it, and I'm just like, gosh, this card is good.
Yeah, Jordan. Why you have to be so high up on it? By the way, it's number 2 on my list.
So, I'm not going to read my number 2 because I think it's on Jordan's list, and we're going to check on Jordan's number 2.
My number 2 is the Royal Scions.
That's my number 2 as well.
Goodness, we're all so in sync. All right, so this one actually we can talk about because it hasn't been crossed over between people's lists. So since I'm like the red-blue dude here, I'll talk about it first. Royal Scions is 1 generic, a blue and a red, for a legendary planeswalker, Will and Rowan. It starts with 5 loyalty. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. It's a 3-mana planeswalker that starts with 5 loyalty.
Let me hold on, let me just repeat that. It's a 3-mana planeswalker that starts with